In a world reshaped by disruption and driven by innovation, one summit has stood at the forefront of transformation: the Times Group ET Now Global Business Summit. Since 2015, this prestigious platform has brought together the brightest minds, visionary leaders, policymakers, and global pioneers to chart the course of business and society. With India's Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi as a guiding force, GBS has ignited bold conversations, unveiling groundbreaking strategies that drive progress and prosperity. As GBS 2025 takes center stage under the theme Evolve, Emerge, Expand, the world's foremost thought leaders explored the seismic shifts shaping the global economy and shed light on how can nations adapt. How can businesses thrive? How do we expand possibilities in an interconnected world? This is where the future is reimagined. In this episode, witness an invigorating panel discussion based on the topic of AI and marketplaces driving India's economic growth. Apurva Goyal, Managing Director at Prosus India, noted that marketplaces are key to India's economic growth, empowering small businesses, creating jobs, expanding outreach, and driving digital inclusion. Here are some key takeaways from the session.
Prosus, which is one of the largest technology companies, not only globally, but in India as well, with more than $100 billion of assets under management, and a very keen appetite for investing across e-commerce, marketplaces, and generative AI. The importance of e-marketplaces in economic growth for a country like India cannot be underestimated. Whether it be through empowering small businesses or creating new jobs through gig workforce, or actually improving product and services outreach and fostering digital inclusion, marketplaces are at the forefront of problem solving for this country and driving economic growth. Having seen marketplaces globally, they have always been at the forefront of adopting disruptive technologies, primarily because of the magnitude of the problem that they have to solve and the hard problem of matchmaking, as you can imagine, right? Multitude of sellers, multiple buyers, multiple product listings, multiple delivery addresses, etc., etc., right? So it's a hard problem to solve for, and it can only be solved through technology. On the other hand, AI, and especially generative AI, is one of the most disruptive technologies that we have seen of late come through. Probably very akin to what internet was in early 2000s, and probably what smartphone and cloud did to all of us in early 2010s. And therefore, it is this confluence of large marketplaces where Abhay and Suresh and Goda come from, which sit on a large pieces of data, and then their marriage with the AI and generative AI models, which can synthesize this large pieces of data quickly, accurately, in terms of information and actionable insights, is what creates potential for significant disruption and large outcomes and potential for growth. While I've done all the talking so far, maybe I'll start with all the panelists doing a very quick round of introductions by themselves, what their journey has been, and maybe in one or two lines, like what does AI and generative AI specifically means for them in the context of the organizations that they work for, right? What does AI stand for? So maybe, Suresh, if we can start with you.
Digiyatra is something which perhaps, all of you have experienced, right? And the convenience that it brings to air traveler. So when we started this journey, I think for a change, airports started to think about the customer that they serve, and what are those pain points of the customer. And this is where the whole journey of Digiyatra began with my face is my boarding pass. So this was a concept which was mooted way back in 2015. And from there on, it's been a journey of conducting various pilot trials, demonstrating it to various authorities, getting a policy together with various regulatory agencies, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Bureau of Civil Aviation and Security, Intelligence Bureau. Everyone sort of, came together, and we got this policy out. And then, of course, we were left with the difficult task of building this ecosystem. And when we were sort of, starting to do this, and we were about to place the order on the selected vendor, this was a global RFP that we had conducted, and we were about to place the order, and then suddenly came pandemic. And all travel came to a standstill, and this is where we had to change track. And that actually showed the resilience of the whole outfit of Digiyatra Foundation itself. And we changed from a central platform to a decentralized ecosystem, much more privacy-preserving ecosystem. And that's where the use of verifiable credentials on a concept called as self-sovereign identity started. And yeah, it's been a big journey. Perhaps, it is globally the biggest of its kind implementation of a self-sovereign identity concept. More than 10 million user base. So, and yeah, more than 45 million times we have enabled passengers' journey.
Abhay, over to you.
Meesho has a really ambitious goal. Like already mentioned, Meesho is an e-commerce marketplace. The ambition we have is to democratize internet commerce for everyone, every Bharat user. What it means is that we want to make all kinds of e-commerce, which would mean like B2C, C2C, whether it's on web, mobile, live stream, etc. We want all of it to be accessible in terms of the selection which is available, in terms of its affordability of pricing, to all kinds of users, including suppliers, users who are there as a customers on the platform, and also our logistic partners and marketplace enablers. So this is a grand goal, and it helps us drive our mission to its purpose, which is that we want Meesho to be a marketplace for every Indian user. Like every Indian should feel that this is the app that they need to go to buy stuff that they want. Imagine like a karigar who can just make like a handful of items at their home. Today, like there is no marketplace where they can go and sell those kinds of items. We want even the smallest sellers in remotest of the corners to be there on our platform and be successful. At the same time, like users who are in the remotest of the regions of the country to be able to do their first e-commerce transaction on our platform, and also like more users who are there to come on our platform because of our price moat. Now, like what happens is that because of AI coming into picture, efficiency across the work streams and across different touch points is leading us to a lot of benefits in terms of, let's say, how cost effectively you can run your business. And as we run more and more cost effectively at scale, we keep on delivering and giving that price benefit back to the user and to the supplier. That helps us to be a zero commission platform for our suppliers and be the most affordable price platform across e-commerce in India. So that's our grand goal, and AI is definitely one of the biggest factors helping us move there.
Vada, over to you.
Swiggy should be equivalent to convenience is our vision, mission, hyper-local convenience. So anytime you think from morning to evening, any convenience use case, whether it's food, grocery, any item from a broad category, as well as you want to pick up and drop something, we want people to think of Swiggy. Now that along with it brings just millions of decisions you need to make throughout the day at that scale for all the sides of the marketplace, whether it's the end customer, whether it's the delivery partner, our restaurant partners, our stores. So with so many decisions, it is not possible without AI. And AI has been at play for a very long time at Swiggy. With generative AI coming in, I think it is adding, like Abhay said, a lot more efficiency for us to make it really reliable, fast, and affordable to the end customers.
While there's a lot of opportunity with Gen AI, there's also a lot of clutter and noise around use of AI, right? Open source versus closed source, what kind of models to use, transform models versus reasoning models, off-the-shelf products versus fine-tune applications, in-house development versus, say, collaboration with external vendors. Like, as someone who has actually solved for this at scale, and I'm sure there are a lot of participants here who are still in the build-out phase of AI for their respective organizations, what would be your advice to them as to how to think about building Gen AI suite of products?
I think overall foundational models is the wave, and we are the surfers on that wave who are kind of figuring out new use cases to enable, but the surfboard itself has a lot of variety in some way, right? So some of it we are trying to build in-house, but we are kind of managing the build versus buy decision that enables speed At this point, I think speed is most crucial to get to the answer faster while you can figure out the later
I believe
parts.
what you're saying is this is an iterative process. It's not a 0 or 1 game as of now. You go from 0 to 1, somewhere it's 1, somewhere
Correct,
it's
because
0, but you learn along the way.
Yeah,
right?
enabling that use case versus actually running it at scale are two parts of the
Yeah.
journey. You should finish the first journey as fast as possible.
It's the start of 2025 and 1 full year to go. Like one prediction each from all three of you as to what's coming the Gen AI way, especially in the context of marketplaces. Like top prediction from.
I'll speak of travel, automated border control, and the use of self-sovereign identity for border control. I think that is something which will be.
And
You'll be
Digi
seeing
Yatra
it
is
very
going to
soon.
be pioneering
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So we are putting in that effort to make it happen sometime in June, at least with some trials.
Very interesting.
So that's something which will come up.
That's something definitely to look forward to. Abhay?
I think we talk about a lot more about multimodal, but I think what will happen is in a year time or so, we'll see foundational models which are multi-business in nature. They are able to handle different contexts of business, different lines of business, and like you bring a lot of efficiency across lines of business, not just like for specific use case.
Out of box without
of
needing
the
to
box.
actually fine tune or actually contextualize those.
Correct.
That's very interesting. Koda?
I think, for example, I think the last year or the year before that was a year lot of proof of concepts. I think this year will be much more at scale.
Deployment.
At scale deployment and production for those. And a new sets of proof of concept for multimodal agentic AI that will go through the same phase.
So faster adoption and penetration of
Yeah.
AI in every use case. Cool. I'll probably also take this opportunity to add my prediction, which is that by next time the ET Global Business Summit happens, it will be our own personal agents discussing these topics, and we'll all be sitting in our homes, enjoying time with our families on a Saturday. On that very optimistic note, I'll probably take a pause from here on. Thank you so much, all the panelists, for all the insights. Thank you, audience, for your patience and for your listening.
We're here at the Global Business Summit 2025, and I'm in conversation with the India Head Investments at Prosus, Ashutosh Sharma. Sir, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Sir, now when we talk about Prosus and its long-term vision, where does India fit into that equation?
India is super important. And look, India is not a new story for us. We've been investing in India for 17, 18 years. We were investors in the first wave of technology startups in India. We incubated GoIbibo, we invested in Flipkart, Swiggy, Meesho, Urban Company, and so on and so forth. The future is very clear. India is the largest, fastest growing, meaningful economy across the world, which will mean that almost all sections of society will get lifted.
Sure.
Having said that, India at the same time is very heterogeneous, which is how you and I buy and behave is very different from how someone in tier 2 town will buy and behave.
Absolutely.
And therefore, the opportunity to launch more varied products for that section of society is there always. And therefore, we will diversify across marketplaces and e-commerce companies across various different sections of society. At the same time, the software talent in India is also very deep and very real.
Right.
And therefore, building software products in India, especially in the area of AI for the world, is again something which is very, very exciting for Prosus.
Well, sir, if you could talk about some of the sunrise sectors, perhaps, that are capturing your attention from an investor's point of view.
Yeah. Look, I think, as I said, India is fast-growing economy. So almost all sectors look nice. Having said that, we can't invest in all sectors. We are relevant in few. As I said, e-commerce and marketplaces enabled by technology and internet are a key focus area for us,
Right.
alongside AI. The reason is this: we don't want to be an investor in a company. We want to add value
Right.
over time. And where we can bring value is in these two sectors. E-commerce and marketplaces, as a company, we've invested for almost 30 plus years across the world. So we can not just bring tech talent from across the world, but also best practices. And so we're very excited about that. Similarly, in AI, we are probably one of the very few investors across the world who have a solid own 40 people AI team.
In-house.
In-house,
Right.
which helps portfolio companies. So that's again an area where we could be very, very helpful to our portfolio companies. And while all sectors in India are very attractive, but for us, I think those two are the focus.
Well, sir, if I could ask you to characterize your India-specific investment strategy, what are the perhaps macroeconomic and microeconomic factors and forces that influence your decision-making ultimately?
Absolutely. The common theme that you will see in all my answers is the India consumption growth story.
Right.
Now, we can all argue if we will double our GDP over the next 5 years or 7 years or 9 years, but we will do that in a short period of time.
The time frame is to be determined?
Is determined.
It's determined.
It'll be short. It'll not be very long, right? 1 or 2 years here and there, we will decide. I mean, the macro will decide. What that means is that a few $1 trillion of new market cap will be added to our public markets. And therefore, our focus is how to enable India and Indian technology companies through both our capital and our expertise to partake in that massive value creation for the country. And therefore, India continues to be very, very core of our investment philosophy and thesis.
Well, sir, are there perhaps overarching trends on the tech side of the equation or otherwise when it comes to investing in the Indian ecosystem that have taken you by surprise?
I think the pace at which we have matured as an ecosystem.
Right.
And when I say ecosystem, the quality of ideas that the founders bring are very India specific, have a solid India specific nuance to them.
And therefore relevance.
Very relevant. Initially, when we started investing, we would say, hey, I am Uber of India, or I'm Amazon of India, and therefore you invest in me. Not anymore. The new ideas are very, very core to India. And so now when we go out, for example, to Southeast Asia, people say, hey, I'm Elastic Run of Indonesia.
Wow.
So which is, I think, the maturity of ideas, the maturity of talent and founders, the hustle that they have, and the amount of capital. When I started investing in India 14 years ago, capital was scarce, but there's a lot of capital now. So across all vectors, I think we're in a perfect storm, and it is on us to now absorb that and utilize that for the betterment of our country as a whole.
Well, sir, another question for you on the decision-making process and the finer nuances of that. What do you consider to be some of the most commonly made mistakes that you'd perhaps advise investors against?
Well, it's not my place to advise other investors. I'm sure there is people who are much more learned than me. But I think in the India-specific context,
Right,
if we take that, having a team on the ground is very, very important.
Sure.
I see very often that people have teams in New York,
Right.
SF,
Right.
try to invest in India. I think the local context and understanding of it is extremely important.
Need the feet on street.
Absolutely. So you can't make that mistake. The second mistake is, not mistake, learning, I would say. The second thing is, India, it takes time because in a lot of sectors, in a lot of products, we are building them for the first time. And so building of them, deployment of them, adoption of them by consumers, it's a journey.
Sure.
And therefore, you have to be patient. But what happens on the other side of that patience is that you come out with someone like a Swiggy, which is our portfolio company, or a Meesho,
Right.
which is or an urban company, which is an extremely loved product,
Sure.
and people are extremely loyal to it.
Right.
So stay put, stay the course, and you will see the outcomes. So I think those two things place India in a different sphere compared to the rest of the world.
Well, Ashutosh, you've highlighted so many of the opportunities when it comes to investing in the Indian market. Could you perhaps also shed light on the challenges?
There's many, but if I were to pick one, I think that India is an attractive destination for global capital is not an IP. It's not something that only I know. I think everyone knows that. And therefore, there is more and more capital coming to India as we speak. And the onus, therefore, is on us as Prosus to keep doing stuff which will separate us or differentiate us from other sources of capital. I'll give you a couple of examples.
Please.
We are very, very long term. We are not a fund, and so we don't look for exits. If we like something, we'll continue to be invested in that company. So that's one. The second one is we do bring expertise beyond just capital, which I already highlighted. Right. And the third one is Prosus is extremely flexible in how we engage with the founders. And I think that's very important in the India context. We can come in early, we can come in late, we can come pre-IPO, we can buy in IPO. And that's something that founders really like, that long-term potential of a partnership with Prosus. Hopefully that continues to separate us from everyone else.
Well, sir, we certainly look forward to that, and we wish you and the larger Prosus team all the very best for what lies ahead. Thank you so much, Ashutosh.
Thank you. Very kind of you. Thank you.